With the major victory for Long Island environmentalists this week. After waging a 20-year-long campaign for more wind power to replace fossil fuels, the LIPA Board of Trustees approved the largest offshore wind farm 30 miles off Montauk Point. Those in favor say this is the future of clean energy and just the beginning. But commercial fishermen fear it could mean the end to navigating prime fishing territory. In Uniondale, dozens of environmentalists celebrated after the Long Island Power Authority Board unanimously approved partnering with a private developer to put 15 giant wind turbines in ocean waters off Long Island. LIPA's CEO says the 600-foot-tall turbines will not be visible from the Long Island coast.
This project is 30 miles off the coast. Superman could not see it.
LIPA signed a 20-year contract to buy energy from the private developer, Deepwater Wind. The developer completed a smaller 5-wind turbine project last year off the Rhode Island coast. The company will now spend $740 million to build this wind farm, and it's promising to use local labor.
We're going to employ a lot of Long Islanders for the project.
LIPA's approval follows Governor Cuomo's promise to build enough offshore wind farms to power more than 1 million homes. This project is expected to power 50,000 homes on the South Shore. The project does face opposition from fishing groups, though, who say that driving these huge wind turbines into the ocean bed floor will kill many thousands of fish.
That's a 15-square-mile area. That's an entire, that's a big ocean to fish. Every time you're pile driving, you're killing within 3/4 of a mile of that area. That's a lot of real estate of fish killing.
Okay, here we go.
But environmentalists celebrated with a champagne toast, disputing the fishing industry's claims by arguing that wind turbines are less harmful to fish than oil spills from tankers. And joining us now is Bonnie Brady. She is the Executive Director of the Long Island Commercial Fishing Association, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, last week we had a local environmentalist with the opposite side of this, hailing the wind turbine project and sort of downplaying opposition from the fishing industry by saying that there's room for both parties, you can work together, and it'll be all figured out, and that the turbines will not either interfere with shipping maritime lanes or fishing grounds, your livelihood. What's your response to that?
I would say, first of all, that one of the largest problems is that they haven't worked with us from the very beginning to site them in a place where living things aren't, because the effects underneath the waterline of construction of the windmills and then operation of the windmills kills fish, possibly moves migrations, and possibly in the long term keeps fish that we catch out of the area and could create generations of problems to come.
Big ocean. Can't the fish go somewhere else for the fishermen to catch them? That's what the folks in favor of wind power.
And those folks know nothing about fishing, because fishermen go to the areas where fish are. They go specifically based on temperature and bait. And as a result, during certain times of the year, they move offshore and onshore, and they go to those specific areas.
I think it's fairly, easy to see how there could be an effect of driving fish away when you have these giant pile drivers. I think anybody could see clearly a fish is not going to stand around while construction is going on. But what evidence is there of the many thousands of fish being killed that you've claimed?
Well, the problem is pile driving. I mean, they've done a series of reports. Pile driving kills anything with a swim bladder within 3/4 of a mile. That pile driving is going to take those monopoles.
The swim bladder means they have the ability to swim in the water and give themselves ballast like a ship.
As opposed to squid. Squid don't have a swim bladder, but for cod, which is a traditional historical fishery on Cox's Ledge, where this project in deep waters take place for over 100 years.
We have a map that you provided us that shows the vast fishing grounds. That, I don't know if people realize how far and wide fishermen will go from here to New England.
And that is only for what we consider to be the multi-species fishery, which is flatfish and cod. And if you can, somewhere on that map, I don't know if we have a pointer, but to the right where that rather large area of orange is, just further beneath that is where the Deepwater project is supposed to be taken to the east of Block Island.
That seems to be a vast concentration of fish, is what you're saying. Well, what types of fish are we talking about?
We're talking about cod, which in southern New England, even though it's considered Georges Banks cod, is probably the most healthy stock of cod in the Northeast. We're talking about fluke, we're talking about scallops, we're talking about monkfish, we're talking about, I think, about 36 different species of fish.
Well, now, a few days ago, I had a couple of days to go through it. I think you sent me like 400 pages of scientific studies, what there is, of the effects of wind turbines on fish. The one thing that I could see there was a consensus, as I read through them the best I could over the last couple of days, everyone agrees there's not been enough study of the effects of wind turbines.
Right. A lot of the studies that they have are taking place in a lab, but the studies they do have, the one that I found that's been...
And how do you recreate the ocean with pile drivers?
Well, the thing is, with the OSPAR site uses windmills that were already sited in Europe, and it talks about the flora and fauna through each stage stage of the project. That's the one that talks about once they pile drive and jet plow, benthic habitat won't return to its present state or to what it was prior to for at least 5 years.
Well, you know, there's worry about sound as well,
Right.
besides the construction. But here's where, you know, I can see the point of debate, because folks who on the other side say this is being exaggerated about the fish kills. And the studies did say that, you know, we're not positive what effects it's having unless they're very close. And but they theorize that probably the larvae and the embryos of the
Right.
fish are being killed.
Right.
Is that where you're extrapolating these thousands of fish being killed?
Well,
you know, fish that have never been born yet?
Well, I mean, you've got a whole series of things. The pile driving kills initially, right away, within that range. It also distresses whales, any of the other marine mammals that use sound in order to communicate with each other and move. You've got the jet plowing 6 feet below the ocean floor, which basically disperses all of that sand with tide, and so as a result, those that were larvae are no longer, because the pressure that's involved.
So in places where these turbines have been in place already for years, which is primarily in Western Europe,
Right.
Have there been fish floating up to the surface that have been killed by the wind turbine?
Well, when
I mean,
you have
where's the evidence of that is what the environmentalists...
When you puncture a swim bladder, you don't float, you sink.
So it goes to the bottom of the ocean.
Right, so if you're at the bottom of the ocean because you're a ground fish to begin with, you're not going to be coming up.
Well, you know, I guess people would probably never think about this, but another effect is the potential sound, because we are talking about airport-level
Right.
decibels that are
Right.
being pounded every second with
Right.
every strike from the pile drivers.
Barotrauma.
And so they're concerned that maybe there's a loss of hearing or damage to the organs. Explain that a little bit more, because that also is unknown, isn't it?
Right, well, there are some tests that actually show with squid, as far as in the barotrauma that exists, that's another problem. The shock waves that come. You've got a 14 to 20 foot size hammer that is literally plunging this monopole 200 feet into the ocean floor.
Is this really about, though, that you don't want hundreds of wind turbines as we count on this for the future and blocking your lanes, really kind of like not in my backyard? Because it is a very big ocean. Wouldn't the ships be able to navigate through here?
No, and it's very simplistic. The reality is that we as fishermen depend upon the fish, not only for this generation, for generations in the future. We, more than anyone else, knows what goes on underneath the water line because we're the ones that follow the fish and catch them, providing food for the nation.
So are you going to sue, or have other fishing groups already sued? I believe I heard about one lawsuit.
We are in a lawsuit involved on the New York Bight project, which is down by the Rockaways, because of the fact that that project, through an unsolicited bid, did not take into account. We gave them copious amounts from 6 states, copious amounts of fishing data, similar to what that map showed, showing where we go and what we catch. And in theory, the way the project initially should go is prior to initializing the lease, if there were areas that were economic importance and or environmentally sensitive for fish, that should be taken out of the area. It was not.
So you're not quite to the point of suing yourself?
Suing for the Cox's Ledge project, that I actually had a conversation with someone today. I think we need to look into it a little bit further and find out what would be most effective.
As far as the project off Long Island, any more required approvals for it? Because, you know, we're not even going to see construction for another couple of years, and we only have 15 seconds.
Yes, they are planning to do an environmental assessment. However, they have not come to us in about the last 6 years to ask for where we think they should go to save everyone the problems, and so I'm not looking forward to it.
So this goes on. Bonnie Brady with the Long Island Commercial Fishing Association, a party that's not happy about what some folks were celebrating with champagne toast just a few days ago. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, up next.